We can come to order, please, and begin our meeting. Good morning. I'm Rosemary Altman. I'm the chairwoman of the State Board of Education, and we're pleased to have you with us today. This is the first time we've had this many guests in our meeting in a long time, and it's nice to see faces and hear the conversation that's going on, so we appreciate your being here. Speaking of which, I don't think I've done this. We need to silence our cell phones to make sure we don't have interruptions during the meeting. I was the one whose phone rang once during a meeting, and I have not forgotten that. So if you would silence your phones, please. This meeting is being live streamed so that people who are not able to be here can join us in our meeting. This morning we'll begin our meeting with the pledge led by Mr. Miller and an invocation led by Mr. East. So we'd ask that you
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this time of year. We're in Mississippi. We're walking students across graduation stages all over the state. Help those young people move on from their high school education work to the world of work, or the world of post-secondary education, and be successful. Father, also help us to understand how 19 students won't ever see that graduation, and guide us in what we can do to stop that type of action. To make decisions today that in the best interest of the children of the state of Mississippi, and also to support our teachers and administrators across this state. That's in His Son's name we pray.
Our members are present today. We do have two members who are not with us. Dr. Elam is out of town, and Dr. Bass had a commencement service that was rescheduled because of the weather. It was outside, and so she is attending that. It's for one of her children, so we certainly understand that. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April 21st, 2022 board meeting, and minutes of May 9th, 2022, a special call board meeting.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Our next item is approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. The agenda will stand as presented. Are there any items on the consent agenda that you would like to pull out for discussion? Okay, hearing none, then the consent agenda will stand as presented. Excuse me. Now we will adopt, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda then as it is presented.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Jacobs and Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, this is the fun part of our agenda. I was starting to say we're swapping coughs up here. The fun part of our agenda where we get to recognize those people in those districts who are doing outstanding things. So we will turn this over to Dr. Benton, who will lead us through this part of the program.
Good morning, Ms. Altman, Dr. Wright, and members of the board. Today we're going to recognize Mississippi's National Blue Ribbon Schools for the year 2021. The U.S. Department of Education grants this designation annually to schools across the country that are among the most high-performing in a state and that have made progress in closing achievement gaps. Only 325 schools in the United States earned the National Blue Ribbon status in 2021. This award is truly a badge of honor for a school. The National Blue Ribbon School Program recognizes schools in one of two performance categories. The first category is for exemplary high-performing schools, and these schools are among the state's highest-performing schools as measured on state assessments. And the second category is for exemplary achievement gap closing schools. And again, just as the name implies, it's for those schools that are making the most progress in closing gaps for students across subgroups. We are proud to share with you that Mississippi has 2 schools in each of the categories. Today, we're going to honor all 4. 3 are with us, and we're going to start with those. And hopefully our 4th one will join us shortly. But the first school that we recognize today is Della Davidson Elementary in the Oxford School District. I'd like to invite Principal Marnie Harrington to join Ms. Altman and Dr. Wright at the front of the room. Let me tell you a little bit about Della Davidson. Della Davidson Elementary is a Title I school serving 3rd and 4th graders in Oxford. The school's main priority is meeting students' academic and social-emotional needs through a variety of resources and supports. Della Davidson uses an approach that they've coined standards-based learning in order to challenge students to master each grade level standard, all the standards in a grade level, and then promote a growth mindset. Students have all year to master grade level standards, and then when those students are promoted, teachers at the next grade know specifically which standards and skills each student has mastered and where they need more support, where they need that extra push. That helps the students to, the teachers to really hone in and meet those unique needs. Della Davidson has also implemented a social-emotional curriculum called Second Steps. That curriculum teaches students how to identify and address their emotions, and it helps them resolve conflict and think through their actions and those consequences that are associated with actions. Della Davidson is really excited and honored to be named a National Blue Ribbon School, and guess what? We're excited for you too. So congratulations. Ms. Harrington, would you like to make a few comments?
Thank y'all so much for having us here today. We really appreciate it. I would like to introduce Ms. Patches Calhoun. She is with me. If you'll stand for a minute, Ms. Calhoun. Ms. Calhoun was my assistant principal when we went through the Blue Ribbon process, but now she serves as the current principal of Della Davidson. So she is here with me today. First of all, we would just like to thank MDE for nominating us for this award. It's such an honor just to be nominated and then to receive it. We're so grateful for that. Second of all, I could not let this opportunity go by without just thanking our teachers and our students for all they have done in this push towards excellence. They really have dedicated so much of themselves and their time and their efforts to help all students hold or achieve at high levels. They hold high expectations, and we're really grateful to them. And lastly, I'm just so thankful to be a part of a community and a district and a state that pushes towards excellence. So thank you all for that and all your work in doing that.
The second school that we recognize this morning is East Hancock Elementary. East Hancock Elementary School in the Hancock County School District. And I'd like to invite Stacy Lee, Dr. Lee, to join Ms. Altman and Dr. Wright at the front of the boardroom. Let me tell you a little bit about East Hancock Elementary is a K-5 elementary school serving approximately 650 students. The school motto, and you're going to love this. Here's their motto: live, laugh, love, lead, and learn. It's the cornerstone of East Hancock's school-wide house system. The school's house system is based on the Ron Clark model that promotes social and emotional connections and fosters a community school-wide. Students are sorted among 5 houses, and they remain in a house throughout their time in school, so they really feel that connection all the way through. Multi-grade level activities and school rallies encourage collaboration, healthy competition, teamwork, and an overall sense of community among not just the students, but the faculty. The house system at East Hancock Elementary allows them to be very proactive in building a strong, positive school climate. Many East Hancock families have been in the community for generations, while others have moved in because of employment opportunities along the Gulf Coast. The families and local community are truly vested in the school. They feel a sense of belonging and they're a part, and you see that through their support and their ability to, and their willingness to volunteer to help, whatever that need might be. East Hancock, as you can tell, is a source of pride for the community. Congratulations to your school and the staff and the students.
First of all, thank you so much for the nomination, and it truly is an honor to be nominated. There are so many great schools across Mississippi. I do have someone very important with me today, and that's Ms. McCraw. She has been my assistant principal. Ms. McCraw, yes. Until this year, she has been my assistant principal for 8 years, the 8 years that I've been principal there at East Hancock. And she has moved on to a curriculum specialist position and is, of course, doing an amazing job in that position as well. But to truly be able to work together as a team, she was just an integral part of us even being nominated. So I'd like to say that, first of all, it truly is an honor, not just for our school, but our entire school community, because we do have a lot of support from our families in our school. Our students, we have just the most amazing students who work so hard every day to perform, and they hold themselves to high expectations because we hold them to high expectations. So again, it's all due to our students, our parents, and our staff just working hard every day. And most of all, I think it shows that we're making a difference in the lives of our kids.
Now we want to recognize our exemplary achievement gap closing schools. And the first school that we'll recognize this morning is Brandon Elementary School in the Rankin County School District. I'd like to invite Principal Valerie Lacey right at the front of the room. And as she's making her way there, let me tell you a little bit about Brandon Elementary. In addition to being an A-rated school, Brandon Elementary's achievement gap closing is directly correlated to the school's mission, which is inclusion for all. The education lingo, or the term inclusion, typically refers to students with disabilities. That's our default and where we immediately think. But here's how Brandon Elementary looks at that. Their staff applies it to all students every day, everything that they do. When making school-wide decisions, they lead with this question: is this inclusive or exclusive? That's such a good question, I have to say it twice. Is this inclusive or exclusive? And then that grounds the next step that they take. Brandon Elementary staff know about their students, not just academically, but as a whole child. All administrators are outside each morning and afternoon. The staff rotates bus duty, car duty, lunch duty, and you can hear them saying things like, "Good morning," "Goodbye," "How was your day?" "Tell me something you learned today." Just spending that time with students can just change everything, how they start the day and how they end. They know the value of spending that time with their students. This year, the school district has read the book Culturize, which is about instilling values such as kindness, honesty, and compassion for all students, and they still ground that with challenging them to be their very best academically. High expectations. Although they are very intentional on academics, they have been even more so this year in working on the social and emotional aspects to make sure students have transitioned well back to school. Congratulations, and thank you for your work you do each and every day. Ms. Lacey, you're welcome to make some remarks if you'd like.
I am so awkward and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Dr. Wright, for having me and for being here, and congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
I typed up what I'm going to say because I heard that we were not providing lunch. So I could go on and on and on, so I'm going to keep it short. What I typed. So I am so excited and honored to be here. I would like to begin by thanking Dr. Wright and the entire Mississippi Department of Education for the support and recognition this morning. I would also like to thank Dr. Sue Townsend and Dr. Scott Rhimes and the entire Rankin County School District because it is the unconditional support of Dr. Wright and her team and Dr. Townsend and Dr. Rhimes and their team that this prestigious recognition was obtainable for Brandon Elementary School. It all began with a vision of what the ideal inclusive practices would look like for my own personal child as a student with disabilities. And almost immediately, this vision turned into what inclusive practices would look like for all children, with and without disabilities. I believe my passion and drive to make inclusion for all a priority motivated our staff to get behind me and trust me enough to roll up their sleeves and do it with me. I would love to stand here and tell you that I did this and I did that, but in reality, after 4 months of school meetings, after school, and summer preparation with my team, all I really did was trust the amazing people around me. And they got it done. I was there with them for PLCs, data meetings, IEP meetings, etc. But my role was to support and to not micromanage. I learned through that process more than ever before that people truly do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. I cheered with them, I cried with them, I even had to tell them I was wrong at points along the way, and still today, I have to say that. At Brandon Elementary School, we are a family. We have students with varying disabilities, we have students from many different economic and cultural backgrounds, but we treat each and every person that walks into our building as family. And that is how I am able to stand in front of you this morning to represent the amazing team working for the great state of Mississippi, the students of the Rankin County School District, and the families that trust Brandon Elementary School enough to allow us to educate and love their children. Thank you again for the hard work and effort, for recognizing the hard work and effort of the entire Brandon Elementary School. I would love to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Scott Rhimes. Our amazing assistant superintendent, Ms. Karen Smith. And our most amazing support system, my husband, Michael Lacey.
There you go.
We have one final school, and
Are they here?
are they here?
Oh, great.
Yay! Yay, they get to make a grand entrance too, so this is pretty great. Our final school that we'll recognize this morning for closing achievement gaps is Woolmarket Elementary in the Harrison County School District. So do we have Mr. Roberts with us today? Well, we are thrilled to have you, Ms. Pace.
Come on up.
Right? Ms. Pace, just make her way to the front. Let me tell you a little bit as she comes to the front about Woolmarket Elementary. Woolmarket Elementary offers students in grades kindergarten through 6 a unique educational opportunity that creates a solid foundation for a lifetime of continuous learning. Woolmarket has an incredible community that surrounds them and that supports them, as they've been in place since 1910. Wow. The school has this motto, once a Ram, always a Ram mentality, with a quarter of its faculty members having attended the school as children. Wow. Woolmarket Elementary has a family atmosphere where multiple staff and faculty members have relatives working alongside them in the community and at the school. They offer an academically rigorous curriculum for all students because the leadership team, teachers, and staff are committed to becoming better each and every day and committed to what they do best, which is teaching. Finally, Woolmarket has earned a consistent A rating from the State Accountability System for a number of years. Congratulations to you and your team for your hard work.
I am honored to receive this award on behalf of Vivian Bosworth, Mr. Roberts, and myself, the students and staff, and the entire Woolmarket community This is an amazing recognition, and we just want to thank you all. Really, we just trust the teachers to be professionals in the classroom. We inspect what we expect, but we get down with the teachers on a daily basis. There's not a time where you won't see an admin in the classroom teaching or working with students. We are truly a family. So this is a great honor, and thank you. Hopefully we'll
I love it.
Thanks so much. Congratulations.
I think these 4 schools bear out that if you set the standards high,
Yep.
provide the support and the training and help the students develop their skills, they will rise to the expectation. And it takes a lot of work, but we thank you for the work you're doing. We thank you for taking care of the children. I think we'll see really good things in the future from what you're doing today. So thank you very much. Okay, now we will have our report from the state superintendent.
Sure, thank you. Good morning. A brief report. I want to say that we held our Student Advisory Council meeting this past month, and it was absolutely phenomenal. These group of children have come together virtually and some in person to address issues that are very important to them and then to share them with me. And I, in turn, came back and shared those with staff. So that's the feedback system. So here's what they're saying that they need, and here's what we come back and help staff to try and meet those needs. I also attended the National Assessment Governing Board in D.C., and we are working now to redo the science framework for the next science exam that will be taken. And also, just to find out a little bit about how the NAEP testing wrapped up. So the NAEP testing has wrapped up for this year. This will be the first time that our NAEP results will be out since 2019. So if you remember, in 2019, where Mississippi was, so we're really anxious then to see what our NAEP results will look like in the fall, and those are due around October. So I'll keep you posted on that. And I want to recognize some folks today. The first person I want to recognize is Lee Bray. So Lee, if you'd stand up. Lee works in OTSS, and he has been absolutely instrumental. The federal government, through the FCC, established a little over $7 billion emergency connectivity fund that districts could apply to extend internet access, excuse me, or even purchase devices that were needed so that kids could stay connected. And so we let the districts know that, and through the first 2 rounds of those, Mississippi schools were awarded $19.9 million. So when round 3 came up, I said to OTSS, how about some individual hand-holding? And Lee was kind enough to make some phone calls and talk to some folks across the state. And lo and behold, we have now asked the FCC for an additional $22.7 million for our schools. And so we are really waiting on that. But I really have to say Lee's leadership and Lee's hard work and personal attention led us to apply for even more than we did with the first 2 rounds. So Lee, I want to say thank you so much for what you've done for our district. And the next group of people, I'd like you all to stand up when I call your name. Jill Hoda, Melissa Beck, Laurie Weathersby, Robin Lamonis, Tanette Smith, Lori Stringer, Kelly Crane, and Jada Brantley. So let me just tell you a little bit about these folks that are standing. I guess Tanette's not here, she's sick. So for those of you that don't know, Mississippi got invited to Alaska's first ever reading summit. They expected about 250 people to show up. Over 1,000 people registered. They invited this group to come and do their presentation. So normally when you do this, you're expected to do 1, maybe 2 presentations over a day and a half. This group of rock stars gave 16 to 17 presentations over a day and a half. It was standing room only. At one point in time, they had to ask some of us to leave because the fire marshal was head counting. But I got to tell you, these women are nothing short of amazing. People came to me, said, oh my gosh, they came up to them. They asked for cell phone numbers. They asked for email addresses. And I tell you what, it made me so proud of this group of women because they're smart. They're incredibly professional. They know their content. And to see the reaction of the audience, the many audiences that they had, and they came on with as much enthusiasm on day one as they ended on day two. So I thought that they deserved a lot of credit for that, particularly after the long haul. But I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do because you've now touched lives in an entirely different state. And I know that many of you are out meeting with other states as we speak. I understand that as well. But to be on a place where you have that many people that were so eager to learn the science of reading and how do we teach kids how to read, and these women just did an outstanding job. And so it's you don't get a lot of recognition, but let me tell you what, I couldn't have been prouder as a state soup and prouder of that group that was there. So I just want to honor them and the work that they did. Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Okay, good, thank you. Once again, when you set the expectations, people rise to the occasion, and we certainly appreciate what you've done and the way you represented the state in Alaska. This last month has been busy with the announcement of Dr. Wright's retirement. There's been a lot of things that have to fall in place to get ready to find a new superintendent. So I have worked on that this last month. As part of that, we created a subcommittee, a superintendent search subcommittee. I've asked Mr. Miller, Matt Miller, if he will chair that. The members will be Dr. Karen Elam, Mr. Bill Jacobs, and Ms. Mary Werner. And the focus of this committee is to assist with the search for the state superintendent, and primarily their role will be to evaluate once we go out for proposals for a vendor to do the search process. They will evaluate these proposals and bring recommendations to the board for an in-person presentation. So that is their primary focus. They will also serve as a liaison to the advisor, to the state board if there are other issues that come up, but we think primarily their job will be the vendor proposals. So that is a subcommittee that we'll have active during this search. We've also had worked on, which the board will discuss a little later on, the request for proposals, the candidate characteristics, some other questionnaires and that we will seek input from stakeholders. So the board will be discussing that later on in the meeting, but that's taken up a good bit of time also this month working on that. The other thing that we, of course, have been concerned about and are just heartbroken over is the incident this week in Uvalde. And I want people to know what this department has done to help hopefully prepare schools and hopefully keep us from having such an incident. The School Safety Act in 2019, which passed and became effective in 2019, had a number of requirements that school districts had to do to increase their or enhance their safety. And I'm just going to hit a few of those so that people will know what's required of school districts. They are to conduct active shooter drills, and the word is shall, so that means they must do it within the first 60 days of each new school semester. They shall adopt a comprehensive local school district safety plan, and the plan must be updated annually, and it must be approved by the school board. All school district employees shall complete civilian response to active shooter events called CRAS, and they must be trained annually. And school employees shall complete a training or professional development course in mental health every 2 years. In 20 and 21, the United States government offered They released various ESSER and ARP funding, and there was money in that to assist state agencies with planning, response, mitigation, and recovery to the pandemic, but also there were other funds in there of school for the Office of Safe and Orderly Schools. There was $14 million in that. And so the current platform provides district with creation and management of emergency operation plans. And in that, you also have a pandemic response, the creation and management of detailed campus maps and building floor plans, and illustrating emergency planning and response related categories, an emergency alert or lockdown application for fire, tornado, or active shooter emergencies for all education and first responder personnel for all public schools and district central offices in the state. The creation of virtual campuses using a 360-degree photographs to create navigable virtual walkthroughs of all public schools, and up to 5 surveillance cameras for all public school sites. There are 1,028 of them, with the ability to detect and notify crowd congestion or when social distancing protocols are not being adhered to. Over the last several weeks, the MDE Office of Safe and Orderly Schools has engaged with various stakeholders throughout the state and is currently in the process of the formation of the Mississippi School Safety Alliance, which, along with the Mississippi Department of Homeland Security and other state agencies, will create uniform discussions and actions to be taken to further enhance school safety in Mississippi through legislation and/or state board policy. The School Safety Alliance looks to conduct its first formal meeting in July of this year. There are 140 districts who have opted in to the school safety program, which I just talked about with the cameras and all. 8 districts opted out, but we think those are districts who already have a plan, who already have addressed school safety, who've had cameras and what have you. And so, but we have 140 districts, so that tells you every district in the state is participating some way or another with school safety. We, of course, the MCOPS program is available through every school in the state through an application process, and that program has been in effect for quite some time. Also, this board approved to expand telehealth and teletherapy, working in conjunction with University of Mississippi Medical Center. That is available to anyone 24/7 for someone who is experiencing some kind of difficulty. So these are the things that this department has done and is doing to enhance school safety and to hopefully protect our children and our faculty and staff throughout the day. We pray we never have one of these incidences, and we always want to be proactive in addressing anything that we think may help our children attend school in a safe and orderly environment. Micah, are you on the live feed? There you are.
Ma'am.
Okay, good morning. Micah Hill, who is our current student representative, will give her report now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today I'm going to be discussing the Student Representative Program and my experience regarding this amazing year. So the way I found out about the program was that my counselor thought the application was actually towards the Student Advisory Council, and turns out it wasn't. And I'm really grateful it wasn't. The process to become the next junior representative was definitely a lot of work, but it was 100% worth it. And I just wanted to shed some light on some things that I experienced with this wonderful program and how we can improve the program for upcoming years. So I was filling out my application for the program. I got the email that I was a semifinalist, and my heart dropped. And it wasn't because I didn't think I could be in the semifinals, but it was because I've never had a true interview before. So I was thinking when I came up to the interview, I was going to be asked to state my opinion on policy number 104 on page 23. I had absolutely no idea that the interview was really going to be about me and my involvement in my school. So this past 2 weeks, I've had the student contact my counselor, trying to get in contact with me about this program. And I felt honored, to say the least. She has the sweetest personality and was very excited and nervous for her upcoming interview, which brings me to the point that I think it would be a great idea to move forward with those students who are interested in program. I feel like it would be a great opportunity if we can have an opportunity to actually communicate with them, whether that's through GroupMe, but we could talk to them about the experience on the board, some questions they should expect, and possibly interview tips. Because as a person who's never had a true interview before, I have to look up videos on what I should and should not do. So possibly through that GroupMe or possibly through the communication, so they feel like we're actually in touch, we could tell you some more things about that. I'm looking forward to this new year as a senior representative. Sounds crazy. And I want to welcome, I can't wait to welcome the new junior representatives. Hopefully we can move forward with this slight but effective change through the student representative program. I also want to inform the board that I was invited to speak to at MSU's Innovation Institute June 21st through 22nd. I plan on presenting my experience regarding the State Board of Education, middle college, and student leadership, as well as meeting other educators around the state. In addition, I will be accompanied by my principal, Dr. Bufford, who will be helping with any questions regarding my school, her experience as a principal at Laurel High School, etc. Over the summer, I got accepted into the Mississippi Governor School at MUW. This program promotes students' creativity, leadership ability, and academic achievement. I'm very excited for both of these events, and I know this will be a great experience.
Good. Well, thank you, Micah. As those of us who sat on your interview committee, we're really sorry we didn't know to ask you those questions. 'Cause had we known that you had studied Policy 104 on page 26, we'd ask you something about it. But you did a great job, obviously. You're here, so you're going to have an exciting summer, and we look forward to hearing about it in the fall when you come back on the board. And so take lots of notes and tell us what all you did. Well, good. Have a good summer, and we'll see you later.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Okay. Let's move to our subcommittee reports. Our first one is the academic achievement. Mr. East?
That's our neck of the woods here. Had a great meeting yesterday afternoon with a lot of the same ladies that stood up over there. I think a few of those were there for sure. Got a great review on our tutoring program papers, the on-demand tutoring that we're doing, the number of school districts that are involved, the number of students and parents that are actually using that. Also on the college and career readiness platform, the Mississippi Connects platform, and the digital learning content. It was good to hear the numbers of school districts that have signed up for these programs. I think they were all concerned that there were some that weren't, and we kind of convinced them yesterday, Matt and I did, that sometimes school districts move slow, but we got 2 years to make this work, and I think as we go through this, we'll see some more input, some more school districts buying in, and also some great things happening for our children and our parents in the state. So great job to that team for the work they've done in a very quick time trying to get all this out so that we can begin to affect some change in our schools coming out of COVID. So thank you very much.
Our next one is school performance and accountability. Dr. McGee-Heath?
Yes, we had student performance and accountability today. Since Dr. Vanderford's going to be giving a report on that, I will yield to the ever work bee. Where is she? Dr. Vanderford, please come on forward and report for us, because I think that the information that she'll have will be very pleasing to a number of people. Dr. Vanderford.
Okay.
Were you going to do your presentation during your,
Yep.
okay, during your item? Okay.
Well, she's first on the agenda, so we're about ready to move on. He just gave you a good segue.
That's right.
Okay, item one is Spring 2022 Mississippi Academic Achievement, third grade initial reading summative assessments.
Morning. I'm very excited to have Dr. Benton join me at the table to present the first of our
Pull your mic a little bit closer. Yeah. We're live stream. There you go.
2022 assessment results, which happen to be related to the third grade Literacy-Based Promotion Act. As you know, the Literacy-Based Promotion Act, the purpose of it is to improve the reading skills of kindergartners through third grade for students that are enrolled in public schools, and that by the end of the third grade, they are reading at or above grade level. And when the parents get and the schools get the reports, it indicates whether the student either met or did not meet the Literacy-Based Act promotion requirements, which we'll talk about a little bit about that later. And then later, when we assess the students on the writing portion of the third grade ELA assessment, those scores are combined, and then that's when we get our level 1 through 5 results, where we know if it's minimal, basic, proficient, or advanced or pass on level 3. I probably didn't say those in the correct order. A student that met requirements, that means that on the first time the student had the opportunity to take the assessment, they scored above level 2 on that assessment and is eligible to be promoted to the 4th grade. Students who did not meet the requirements will need additional interventions and will have 2 additional opportunities to take the assessment in order to promote to the 3rd grade unless they meet a good cause exemption, which we'll talk about in the presentation. And we have already had our initial retest, the first retest opportunity, and that occurred May 9th through the 13th. And late yesterday, districts received those results, which are not included in this report, but we will talk a little bit about those. Your backup material is the initial retest results only. Again, do not include the results that were released yesterday. It's just the first of 3 opportunities that students will have. Your backup material is organized by district, by school, and has columns that indicate what percentage of students met or did not meet those requirements. You will see on page 3 of your backup material that this is a joint publication between the Office of Accountability and the Chief Academic Officer. There's some names and titles listed there. Dr. Wright has asked a group of ladies to stand, but Dr. Benton and I were having conversation this morning, and we know that we have a minimum of 75 MDE staff or contractual workers that do nothing but work on a daily basis to implement the Literacy-Based Promotion Act. So it's overwhelming from the state perspective for the implementation, and then Dr. Benton is going to talk about the district level requirements. On page 4, you'll also, of your backup material, it gives you more detail about what the criteria is, or what students accomplish if they, and what they know and can do if they meet the requirements, and maybe some of the areas under the do not meet that students may be having the deficiencies there. We'll move into the presentation, and of course we always begin with the vision and mission, which is to create an educational system that gives students the knowledge and skills to be successful, and we do that through the development of policy and accountability so that all students are prepared to compete globally. This report references goals 1 and 2. However, as a whole, just about everything we do combines all 6 of our goals. But when we look at assessment systems, we look at goal 1, which is all students are proficient and showing growth in all assessed areas. And number 2, that every student graduates from high school and is ready for college and career. The backup material also contains the charts that are included in this, so that's why you do not have an additional presentation today. So this is a very exciting slide. We want you to look at the spring 2019 initial results, which was the first year that the law increased the requirements to score above a level 2, where a student must meet at a minimum a level 3 out of 5 in order to be promoted. In 2019, on our initial test administration, we had 74.5 of the students that were assessed that met the requirements. And as you know, we did not assess in spring of 20, we assessed in 2021, but we had a waiver of the requirements that are outlined in law for the Literacy-Based Promotion Act. And please take a look at the initial results for spring of 22, where 73.9% of our students passed on the initial administration. So we were very, very excited when we received these results. And just a little teaser that's not in your backup material today, but as a result of the assessment results that we received last night for the first retest, in 2019, 39.1% of the students that took the first retest passed. Compared to 2022, we have 38.4%. So again, our results are very closely aligned to that 2019 administration. So if you see, we talked about this a little bit in subcommittee this morning, but if you see districts that are beginning to release results of their third grade administrations that they have right now, and they do not match your backup material, it likely is not a misprint. It's just that the districts are going ahead as they provide the media outlets the information, the results from the initial, as well as the first retest, and combined with the students that they know is going to meet a good cause exemption. So you may see a discrepancies in numbers if you compare your backup material from today to a press release. All right, so these are just the bar graphs that show you how close we are to mirroring the results of the first time that a student had to meet level 3 requirements to pass in year 1.
Before you go on, we really need to stop and celebrate this just a little bit. This doesn't happen by accident. This happens because you've got teachers in those classrooms that are out there working day in and day out. You've got our staff out there supporting them through coaching, et cetera. This is amazing. This is coming out of a pandemic. This is after 2 years of coming out of a pandemic. And we're right just where we were in 2019 when we set the bar higher. Let me say that again, because in 2018, the bar was lower. We set the bar higher starting in 2019. So hats off to the staff that works in these schools. Hats off, whether it's school improvement, special education, doesn't make any difference, but teachers and leaders across this state deserve so much credit. Mississippi is not in the national eye by accident, because I can tell you that other states are struggling with reading. And our teachers and leaders have held fast to what they know the science of reading can do for children. So I just don't want us to gloss over this too quickly without, giving a cheer to schools and to our staff as well. So.
All right, the next slide is just briefly a few key findings, again, from the initial assessment. We had 40 districts that had 80% of more of their students that met the promotion requirements on the initial test. We had 4 districts that had 90% of more of their students that met the promotion requirement, and those 4 districts are Choctaw County School District, Ocean Springs School District, Clinton Public School District, and Webster County School District. And then we had 15 districts that had 50% or more of their students that did not meet the promotion requirements. So that's just to highlight a few of the key findings based on the initial result.
And there's one more assessment that's coming.
Yes, ma'am, and that is going to begin June the 20th through July 8th. So we will, there's a quick turnaround between the initial assessment. We get the results back, get them to districts, and then within a week, they are assessing students again on the first retest. But with the second retest, we have a few weeks in between for districts to provide interventions to those students that have not passed or does not meet one of these good cause exemptions that we're going to highlight here that are outlined in the statute. So the first one being a qualification for a good cause exemption is an English language learner student that has received less than 2 years of instruction in an EL program. The second is a student with disability that has an IEP that indicates that it's not appropriate for that student to participate in the statewide assessment system. And the third is a student with disability that does participate in the statewide assessment system that has either an IEP or a 504 plan that documents that the student has received 2 years of remediation in reading, but still does not demonstrate that they have the skills to move forward, or that they were previously retained in kindergarten, first, second, or third grade. The third or fourth area is a student who demonstrates acceptable reading proficiency on an alternate assessment that's approved by the state board. And then finally, a student who's received intensive reading interventions for 2 years, but still demonstrates a deficiency in reading and was previously retained for 2 years in grades kindergarten, first, or second, or third grade. And at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Dr. Benton, and I hope Dr. McGee has had his time on, because he was talking about the lengthy conversations that Dr. Benton and I have from time to time. And I told him I promised my portion of the presentation would be shorter than Dr. Benton's. So.
Well, this news deserves to be
Yeah.
lengthy. It really does,
Yeah.
because the expectations were there. Our leaders, the superintendents, principals, associate superintendents, literacy coaches, and especially our students and our local principals at the elementary level who really labor over this with love. And what a great number in a very trying year. And one more time, I think we ought to give applause.
Yeah.
I hope we're doing that throughout the assessment season as we continue to receive assessment
Well,
results.
let me tell you, this is a sidebar, but I think it's appropriate. The emphasis that they put on this, I have a friend who has a third grade grandchild. And so the parents had done everything they were supposed to do to get him ready. I mean, good night's rest, good breakfast, all that stuff. And when he found out he'd passed, he said, I'm going to tell you, I passed that test and I need to go to Disney World.
That's a nice
That's good.
So I'm so glad everybody's happy, and I hope I'm going to keep that going. We have work to do. You know, we still have work to do because we have little ones that we want to help cross over that benchmark. But before I get into our specific next steps for schools, districts, and the MDE team, I want to go back to something that this board and Dr. Wright charged the agency staff with several months ago. You asked that Dr. Vanderford's team and the academic team dig into the data and identify what were those effective practices used by our schools and districts that did well despite the pandemic from that first batch of results in 2021. And so that's what we did. We engaged with our teams over several weeks in calls with about 12 superintendents or their designees and 12 principals in schools to find out what did you do differently. And I want to share with you some of the things they said because they are encouraging and they're very informative. Some of their comments were things like, we maintained and maximized face-to-face instruction. We maintained the 180 school day calendar, and in fact, we added some additional time. We maintained our commitment to 330 minutes of good quality core instruction. And speaking of that, they really doubled down on English language arts and mathematics instruction in particular. Looked at the gaps where the students were, and were very specific, very targeted in the approach. They also brought on multiple hands on deck. Several principals and school leaders and district leaders talked about how communication was so enhanced with families. You know, that it was really all hands on deck and we're all in. And how the partnerships with the home and families had just been so greatly strengthened. And then finally, they mentioned how they had used resources provided by the agency, how they had used the scaffolding documents and so forth. So the bottom line, our biggest takeaways, and I believe Dr. Vandervoort would agree, was they just maintained course. They maintained their commitment to high expectations, quality standards aligned expectations, and that it's all of us together that are moving our students forward. And they kept the child right at the heart of every decision. And I thought it was important that you know that, what we found out. So where do we go from here, now that you've heard these such encouraging results? For our schools, what we are encouraging and what you will see is summer reading programs or camps that are launched for students who were not successful on initial third grade reading assessments. And you're not just going to see those for that particular student. You're going to see districts using the data from these interim assessments that they have at the district level to go ahead and try to capture those second graders and lift all boats. We're going to see that type of thing. You're going to see them using their ESSER funds to do that, these title funds that have come into place. You'll also see, and we are encouraging, individualized instructional plans. It's not one size fits all. It's very student specific. Where are my strengths? Where are my areas of opportunity to strengthen? We're really excited about the third bullet there, the use of on-demand tutorial services. Oh, excuse me, I left off a word. Free on-demand tutorial services that are provided by the vendor we have in our state, which is paper, but also those digital learning subscriptions that you approved. Many of those English language arts and math pieces also have a tutorial or self-study component that families can use. So we're encouraging students in schools and families to use those. And then finally, the strengthening of partnerships between community organizations like our 21st Century programs and Boys and Girls Clubs. That will be taking place not just in the next 4 weeks between the next retest, but also you'll be hearing about back to school, jumpstart camps, things that happen the first couple of weeks of school to bridge those gaps. If you'll go to the next slide, our districts, what we're really encouraging through our summer training, and really, quite frankly, we've been talking about this all spring, is for districts to go ahead and start thinking about next year. How can you use this third grade assessment data and all of your assessment data to inform your decisions about where you put your personnel? The students that need the most support need the strongest instructional teachers in the classroom. You know, what does that look like? What resources do we pump in? What's your comprehensive summer learning acceleration plan? And how does that fit and dovetail with your professional learning plans you have for the summer, bringing teachers in? And you can see in that fourth bullet, our emphasis in this particular area is on the science of reading. And you heard Dr. Wright talk about just how we know it works. You're seeing the evidence, and others want to join in and learn from us in that process. And then the last bullet, I think, is critically important too, just encouraging our districts to make certain that we have quality and consistency in literacy instruction in every pre-K and grade 3 classroom. And I'll use that as we segue to the next slide to say that we've tried to do that here intentionally, and our literacy coaches have been working with Dr. Van Cleve, I think I saw her somewhere here, with the professional growth system to make sure that we provide consistency in our message to teachers. You know, if you have coaches coming in and principals and they're looking for different things, sometimes that's just stressful for classroom teachers who are giving it their best every day. So we are aligning our look-fors, if you will, to make sure that they complement each other and we are giving consistency in our message. And then also we mentioned those schools that aren't where they need to be yet in terms of having our children post progress. And that's what the first bullet is about. Our wonderful literacy team is contacting districts and schools where more than half of the students were not successful on the initial assessment to say, how can we help? And here's how we can help. You know, not just to say how, But here's what we can do to support you and help be the thought partner with them as they plan those next steps and supports for students. Continuing to provide our resources and coaching supports and intervention services, offering guidance around the individual reading plans. You know, it's great to say you have a plan, but what's in that plan and how does it transfer to outcomes for children? And that's where our emphasis is. And I don't want to leave out the last piece there, which is supporting our families with the activities we've had for a number of years in our early childhood office and our elementary, the family success guides. And you may have heard those referenced. And we really want to keep pushing those out to families and helping them know how to help their students. We have a partnership with MPB where they have free access to programming to help empower families. So I just want to end where Dr. Wright took us in the midpoint of how incredibly excited we are about these results. You heard Dr. Vanderford share the first retest. Just wait when we come back in July and are able to tell you about our final outcomes for boys and girls. Each percentage point that is raised equates to a child. And we can't say enough about the hard work of every teacher, and it doesn't just happen in third grade. It happens way before that. Every teacher, every leader, every bus driver that met the child in the morning and got them to school, everybody plugged into our children, and that's what we're seeing today. So thank you for your time. Do you have any questions about what Dr. Vanderford and I have shared this morning? Can we clap one more time?
Mr. Miller, do you have a comment?
I just, one comment. To me, as a parent, looking at those numbers, I think it gives parents great comfort that the learning loss that everybody has been worried about from COVID is not as bad as everybody expected. So I think that's encouraging. Right. The second thing to me is I agree with, okay, we know which ones we've got where they need to be. What do we do to double down on the ones that aren't? One thing that I think is important is figuring out new ways to engage those parents. Because you can have all the programs in place, but if the kid is not there to participate in it, it doesn't do them any good. So figuring out new ways to make sure those kids who are behind, that their parents are involved and encouraged to bring those kids to school or sign up for this program. I think that's an area that I know that's being done, but even from the department standpoint, giving the districts ideas of, hey, how do I get this parent to bring their kid up here in the summer or sign up for this program?
To remove the barriers. And that's one encouraging thing that I think our literacy group can tell you. As the communications team has issued these wonderful press releases around the different supports that are available, like the on-demand tutoring, we will get emails and calls from family members. Tell me about that. My school didn't tell me. So we connect the school and the family and then just make sure we're bridging those gaps. So thank you for challenging us in that area. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's a wonderful report to start the day off, and it's exciting to see that all the fretting that we did over learning loss has translated into teachers, administrators, community doubling down to make sure that things are taken care of. So we appreciate that. Yeah, the next item is the accountability standards. Dr. Vanderford?
Madam Chair, if there's no objection from the board members, I'll spare you the 35 slide presentation on accountability that we've had for the last 3 months.
Dr. McGee, he wants to see that.
He might. So item 2 is the business rule revisions as a result of the federal waivers for accountability and our addendum that was submitted as a result of the pandemic. We, as you recall, revised the initial proposal that we presented to the board in March. We revised that in April. Since that time, we have had overwhelming response from district leaders and stakeholders about the proposed revision that we made last month. We did have to begin because it was a substantial change from March to April, that we withdrew, as you recall, the APA request from March for comment, and then began another APA comment period, and that ran from April the 21st through May the 17th, and we received 5 public comments. Your backup material contains each of those comments in a summary, consistent in the manner that you're accustomed to receiving them. We will continue to review all of the comments. We have compiled the comments that we received throughout this process. We will be meeting with our technical advisory committee on June the 1st and 2nd, and we'll continue to work through the in-the-weeds details of these proposals, but at this time, the MDE has recommended that we make no changes to the proposal that we presented to you in April, and that the board approve those as final. But we, again, have the commitment to the board and to the school districts that we will conduct the post-administration review that will occur through agency staff, through the technical advisory committee, the Center for Assessment, as well as the local school district. So we'll continue to monitor that, and to Mr. Miller's comment and Ms. Altman's comment, if the remaining assessment data files and results come in, and they're as exciting as the initial ones with the 3rd grade reading, then hopefully it'll be history that we've all been concerned about reporting and the assignment of letter grades if our results continue to resemble the 2019 pre-pandemic results.
Okay, any questions on this before we vote on it? Do I have a motion that we approve item 2, which is the business rules of the statewide accountability? Ms. Werner? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you had a question. You were making the motion. Okay, Ms. Werner, do we have a second?
Second.
Dr. McGehee, any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, item 3 is the cut scores on the assessment.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, if I may, I'll just present items 3 and 4 together because they're similar items. If you recall, we administered new assessments last year during the pandemic, one for U.S. history, which is item 3, and then one for the alternate assessment in science, which is item 4. And we conducted the standard setting review and came back to the board with the recommended cut scores for the pass fail portion, as well as the levels on each, the scale scores to designate each level on each of those assessments for the previous school year. And we also committed to the board that since we conducted the standard setting during a year that a pandemic had occurred and it was a new assessment, that we would come back this summer after our spring 21 assessments and conduct a standards validation process to ensure that the standards that were set in pandemic were actually the appropriate cuts for both of these assessments. We have already began the standard setting validation process for U.S. history. That actually occurred last week. The one for Map A Science will occur in June. However, it does take some time to get those results back to the board. And so to benefit the districts, we're asking the board if you would approve the same standards that you approved for the 2021 school year once again in the 2022 school year, and then allow us to come back to you in July or August and report the outcomes of these standards validation. Not saying that any scale score will change at any of the cuts, but that if they do, as a result of the standards validation, at the time that we submit those to you for approval, that you would approve to implement those beginning the 2022-2023 school year. So districts would have an advance notice if, and I emphasize if, there were any scale scores that would change. But we just would like your approval of this today so that districts will know what the cuts for each of these assessments would be at each of the performance levels.
Okay. Okay, we need to take these in 2 motions, I think. So the first one would be on the history assessment. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then the second motion would be for the science assessment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vanderford. Thank you. Okay, item 5 is contracts, MDE contracts. Dr. Gavin.
Good morning. We have several contracts that we're bringing before the board this morning. Most of these are actually renewals. They're not new contracts. They're all renewals in their second, third, or fourth year. So the first contract that we're bringing forth for approval is a renewal of, with Curriculum and Associates. It's the fourth year of a 5-year procurement, and it is for our assessment screener for the pre-K program.
Okay, just go
Item-
on 3 unless someone has, go through them unless someone has questions on one of them.
Okay. Item 5B is to renew contracts for the adoption of textbooks, and this is year 6 of a 7-year contract, and this is a no-cost contract to the state. Item 5C is a renewal of a contract, year 3 for Lydia Bootwell. Item 5D is ACT contract. It is the renewal, and this is year 5 of 5 for ACT. So we will have to rebid that one next year, but that is the last year of this contract. Item 5E is to renew our contract with DRC, and again, this is the last year of this particular contract. Item 5F is to renew our contract with Renaissance Learning, and this is year 10 of a 10-year contract. Item 5G is is actually a modification with TJ Maintenance. They provide custodial service at our new call center. Item 5H, this is approval of pupil transportation equipment bids, and this is for bus purchases and repairs. Again, this is a no-cost contract to the state. Item 5I this is a new contract, but it is a zero-cost contract to the state. This is a contract that we procured on behalf of the districts for milk distributors. And item 5J is also another contract that we procured on behalf of the districts, and it is for ice cream distributors under the Office of Child Nutrition. Item 5K is to renew a contract with Doris Schneider and Healthy Regards, and this is year 2 of her 3-year contract.
Okay, any questions on any of these contracts? Then I'll,
5K, yeah, that's the ones that are actually sending out the meal plans for the schools to follow and the proper calories and so on?
Yes, for all districts that participate in the statewide program.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
okay, do I have a motion to approve items 5A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K? We almost got the whole alphabet. Do I have a motion as such? Dr. Barrett, okay, do we have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I used to teach a reading program where we learned the alphabet backwards. So I have to think sometimes because I want to start out ZYXWVT. Okay, item 6.
Item 6,
That's just
we
a
have.
little tidbit there.
Okay, for item 6, we're bringing forth to the board one grant, and it is to award 8 school districts and 10 schools grants for a K-4 summer reading camp. So we're excited about this, and this will,
This is a good one.
yes.
Do we have a motion to approve this, your pleasure?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? Mr. Jacobs? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, good. Now we'll move to item 7. This is the consent agenda. Anybody have a question on any of the consent agenda items? If not, then we'll entertain a motion to, well, let's see here. To approve the consent agenda as presented. I'm not running through all these numbers and letters, so you have them on your agenda. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now, we will entertain a motion to enter into executive session. I think we have time to do this before lunch, so,
Move the board consider making a closed determination of the need to go into executive session.
okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Dr. McGehee, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We would ask that, let me get my, do we have our executive, let me get my executive. They're working on it.
Back up or back down?
Oh, because she's got to read.
Got it, okay.
The State Board of Education has unanimously voted to go into executive session in accordance with the Mississippi Code annotated section 25417-4A and K. The board has decided to go into executive session to discuss discrete personnel matters related to the approval of appointments to certain positions and/or approval of the salaries or contracts of certain positions within the Department of Education, Mississippi School for the Arts, Mississippi Schools for the Deaf and Blind, and the Mississippi School for Mathematics and Science.
All right, during the executive session,
If you don't do it too early.
the board approved, in the Office of Academic Education, Dr. Amarita Tell as a program administrator. Hang on. And then in the Office of Technology Services, Charles Wade Grant was approved for a position there too, so as Information Security and Data Privacy Director. And then Dr. Kim Benton was appointed as interim superintendent during the time that we go through our superintendent search. Do we have anyone who's needs approval for attendance to meetings out of the state? Anybody on the board? Okay, we need to approve the meeting dates for the fiscal year of 2023. You had that in your backup material. So do we have a motion to approve those dates as were presented to you?
So moved.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then the other item of business that we have is we're going to need to move the location of the State Board of Education meetings from this building to the Mississippi School Boards Association, which is at 380 Zurich Drive in Ridgeland, for the meeting scheduled between July 1st, 2022 and December 31st, 2022. The roof on this building and other renovations have got to take place, so we can't meet in this room. So we're going to move to the School Board Association has agreed to let us use some space at their building. So you'll get more information about this, but we need to take action on approving that move so that we can let people know where we're going to be. Mr. Jacobs?
I'll definitely make a motion that we accept.
Yeah, and Ms. Werner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the other thing is the State Board, we'll have a work session on June 15th. We will, at that time, interview our semifinalist candidates for our student board representative, and we'll go through the FY 2023 budget. We'll begin that morning at 8:30 with the student representative interviews. Then that afternoon, we'll work on the budget. And then the June board meeting will be held on June 16th at 2022 in this building. We will meet in June in this building, and our meeting will be at 10 a.m. Does anybody else have an announcement? I think we've about come to the end. Then I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, Jacobs and Miller. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Good. Good meeting.